Okay, Professor Giles here again, and we're moving away from Caravaggio and we'll go to Spain here in a second. I want to come back to this image that we looked at lastly, and then a couple others about Caravaggio's students, and a little story. Um, this is one of the prime examples of Caravaggio using people from the street, normal everyday people. The apostles here are mourning the death of Mary, the mother of Christ. Um, Even one of the other Marys is probably here. Now, within the common um, dogma of the day, um, as we talked about earlier, when Mary died, she was bodily assumed up into heaven so that her body wouldn't see corruption. Um, and in this Titian image that we looked at, you see all the apostles down here, and they're all looking up, and there she is lifting up on this cloud, and there's God the Father, and it's this joyous, sanctified moment. Caravaggio puts that on its ear. This is not some sanctified moment, it's a dead body, and there are tears, and there are emotions, and darkness. One thing is, what is this red fabric doing other than just being a device? Does it really have anything to do with the scene? Other than a halo that's very light, there is nothing religious or sanctified about this moment at all. She's not rising up into the heavens, she's just laying there. Now, I gave you a little teaser on that last image that I showed from the last video. Here's a detail. And the story goes, and well, that this was a prostitute, a dead prostitute pulled out of the river going through Rome, the Tiber River, and that people would have known her face because she was well known within um, that area, and that she might have been pregnant with this distended stomach here. So here she is, a prostitute who's dead and is pregnant, and he is placing her here as the Virgin Mary, which was totally anathema, horrendous. There is a tale that he had to leave town, that this image was rejected and that he had to leave because they were after him for his, almost to kill him. So very controversial. Even though he was such a wonderful painter, he had problems. Gambling, fighting, he did kill a man in a sword fight. So even though he didn't have that great life, he still was a great painter. And with that, he did great religious Christian images. I absolutely love this image. And I just had to show this to you. But here we have the doubting Thomas, or the incredulity of St. Thomas. So we have Jesus here, Thomas, and then a couple of the other apostles, and they're these old men, dirty, furrowed brows, just guys off the street that he found who were interesting in their face. And here's Jesus grabbing the hand of Thomas and jabbing that finger into the wound on his side. And he's almost saying, okay, as the Bible states, Thomas says that he won't believe unless he touches the imprints on his hands and in his side. And this shows that. Even for all the problems that Caravaggio has, he brings this out in a very powerful way. So I just love this, that the flesh is being pulled up on that opening, on the wound. There's the wound on his hand, but on the hand of Thomas, he has dirt underneath his fingernails. That Caravaggio is that detailed and that respectful of the man, the earthliness of the man versus the God man. Okay. Now, um, I need to give this warning because I need to tell a story. I feel like I need to. Um, when I went to the Uffizi Museum for the first time, my wife was with me with a tour group of students, and I was teaching, and we were going through, as we wanted to through the museum, and I was looking at this that we've already looked at, and my wife went around the corner, and I could see her, and she went around the corner, and she's looking at something up on the wall, obviously large. She's looking back and forth at it, and her mouth drops open, and she's just going, wow. So I'm like, okay, she found a really great painting. What did she find? She found this. It's Caravaggio's version of Judith beheading Holofernes. My wife is a nurse. She knows about blood. She knows about bodies. And she's standing there going, wow, about this. It is a wow painting. But the story of Judith and Holofernes, it's in the Catholic Bible. But Holofernes is I think, Assyrian general, and he has taken captive a Jewish princess, Judith. And he takes her into his tent, and he's going to molest her. And she's not going to let that happen, and he gets drunk, and when he's drunk and passed out, she grabs his sword and chops his head off as he sleeps. Well, obviously here he's not sleeping anymore. He's been woken up by Judith and her maidservant, who's holding a bag to put the head into. And it's this very bloody, active, yet quiet piece of artwork. If you put a line down the middle, top to bottom, on the left it's violent, on the right it's calm. And by the way, if you go look at some of the other Caravaggio paintings, you see the same face. Oh, not that one. That one. There she is, right there. So Caravaggio could portray people as they really looked in their real environment. Okay? Now, so a warning about that, but then we have this other artist, Artemisia Gentileschi. Yeah, finally a female artist. The book talks about one or two before that, but really one of the first ones we come to. Artemisia's father is a painter and teaches her up until she's 12, 15 years old, and then sends her away to a better master painter. And bad things happen to her because of that painter, and she turns to doing this same theme, and she becomes a student of the style of Caravaggio. So we have this other Judith slaying Holofernes by Gentileschi, and it's very different. It's much more violent. There's much more blood spurting out. The maidservant has her full weight holding down Holofernes. Judith is not just standing back, not wanting to get dirty. She's right in the action. One knee is on his chest. If you follow her leg over, a leg is on the chest, and her arm and hand is holding his head down and grabbing his beard and his hair. And he can't do anything about it. So it's very, very violent. And actually, this is beside the Caravaggio Holofernes. And actually, to this day, this is my wife's favorite piece of artwork. We've been to great and famous museums, seeing wonderful things, but this is the one she keeps going back to. And this slide does not do it justice, as with all the slides in the book and on my displays here. So there's a comparison of those two. Now, as we compare here, let's go on and talk a little bit more about the Baroque and activity and theatrical nature of the Baroque as we finish up here. This is the ceiling of a church in Rome. It's the name of San Ignazio. It's dedicated to St. Ignatius. And what you see here is an archway. That is real architecture. That is real architecture. These windows are real. But everything other than these real architectural features is ceiling. It's almost flat. It does move up and away from this here. So this is nearly vertical at this point, and then it flattens out and curves around until it's here where it's vertical. So this is very much like the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. It's virtually flat, but it looks like it has lots of space. So this is using perspective, this is using color, and this shows Saint Ignatius, the Catholic saint, being taken into the heavens. But it is so theatrical. You have all of these floating angels, little cherubs, floating bodies of the saved coming up into the heavens. We're looking almost up what they're wearing. Okay. Look here as they're floating. Here we have the continents. Here's Africa, Asia, Europe, America. And America is just brand new at this time period, but look, there's a headdress there of like a Native American. So even at this point, they're trying to show this new technology, this new place that they have found. So everything that you see here, this arch is painted on a nearly flat surface. The heavens leading up here, that's all on basically the same surface. So very much theatrical. It's coming on a long line of paintings of this sort that's very, very, very theatrical. Everything red here is real architecture versus the painting. So, all right, so let's go over to Spain. And in Spain, the artist we're going to look at first is Velazquez. And he is similar to Caravaggio in many ways, being very talented, very young, when he's promoted up to be the court painter for the king of Spain. But he's doing artwork like this. Does it look like anyone else's artwork? Yeah, he's following Caravaggio. Even though he's never met Caravaggio, he has seen copies of the Caravaggio's work. So he's using that same dark background with the light areas, that tenebrism, okay? And here he is doing an everyday scene of a woman cooking eggs. Now, if you go back to the Caravaggios, you can actually find this face that's very similar. I don't know whether he's copying or that it's sort of a nod to him. Here's another piece. Hey, there's that same face of the boy. This is not finished. That's why the background isn't as dark, but you can sort of see the process and how he built up the imagery. But very soon he was selected by the king and his ministers to be the painter for the court, for the king and queen and their family. So he did tons of portraits of the king and queen, various ages. And you can see a young man here when he had painted, and he worked with him so long. Here he is, an older man. But notice the lip is still the same. The eyes are still the same. He really knows him by now and is able to paint him. And he also did many portraits of his daughter, the Infanta Margarita, or the Princess Margarita, and various images through her life, including this image of Las Meninas, or the Maids of Honor, and very, very technical piece, very complex. And I'm going to wait till the next one to go on with this, and then we will get near the end.